as someone who's not an ally, who's just in the community, I was fucking exhausted by Pride this year.
Yeah.
So all those poor people who had to stand around and be like, yes, I support this, I'm there, and I'm like, I don't think I support this anymore. Like, this has gotten out of control. It was such an unhinged Pride this year.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
HotMovies.com has long been an ethical and affordable place to hashtag pay for some of your porn. Now with Hot Movies Select, customers gain access to unlimited viewings of tens of thousands of additional films from all their favorite studios for the low, low price of $24.95. Visit HotMovies.com, click Select Unlimited, and use promo code MANWHORE at checkout so they know who sent you. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to all the man ape face fuckers and lady demon soul suckers. This is Billy Procida, and you're listening to the Man Whore Podcast. Yeah, welcome. Happy belated white colonialism day, everyone. I hope we all learned something new about the country in which we live. In between your BBQs and your beer pongs and your bong rips and your patriotic orgies. Gosh, I hope I wasn't the only one who went to a patriotic orgy and read an article. Hi. Did you know that George Washington had slaves while he was president? Had slaves in Philadelphia while he was president? Kind of weird. It was a free state after all. Even one of the slaves, own a judge, ran away, and he used his presidential powers to try to capture and recover her while in office. That just feels kind of weird, right? Feels like something we should all know about Georgie. I feel like I'd be less salty about it if you just told me in the beginning. Now it just feels like this dirty secret you hid from me. And a third of the country is so attached to that image of Georgie at this point that you can't even tell them now as a rational adult. But hey, whatever, Billy, can you tell us about the orgy? What, you didn't go to one on Sunday? Am I the only one who got asked to participate in a bukkake on Sunday afternoon? Something that might be more relatable is I had a really nice date night after the play party on the nighttime for the fireworks. And this was the first time in a long, long time I feel like I truly nailed date night. She got here and we went up to the roof and I had already waiting for her the blanket and our Prosecco and some snackums. And I had some books I wanted to read some passages to her from because she's a total nerd and dorky person. And I've just had all these books sitting in my room for years waiting probably for her. And it was technically a candlelit date, even though I resent that she called it a boy candle. Just because I bought a candle at Rite Aid doesn't make it any less of a candle, functionally speaking. But it was pretty cool, because from my roof looking out, you can see the Macy's Days fireworks. But because it's New York City, all over Brooklyn and Queens, people are popping off their own fireworks. And we can see fireworks are probably 10 miles away. So although I can see Macy's in front of us, we have a 360-degree view of way better firework presentations. It was awesome. You look to the right, there's fireworks more in Bushwick. You look to the left, fireworks in Bedside. Behind us is fireworks in Brownsville. Kind of diagonally far off. You're like, wow, that's got to be Corona, Queens. I can't even point to that on a map, but they seem to be having a good time. And then, as the evening drew to a close, we went back inside and I let her play with my butt for the first time. It was a dope date night. Billy, did you also plan for the butt stuff too? We won't say that I planned it, but there were hopes and dreams. And I like to think that they came true. She bent me over my desk. Well, if I remember more correctly, I think I bent myself over the desk and she took an opportunity. But, it was great. So I hope you all had a fairly slutty Independence Day weekend while also self-educating yourself about, honestly, anything. Please. Thank you all for the kind comments, by the way, last week. In the intro, we were talking about the body stuff. And holy shit, it came up again. A different lover of mine, she was over here over the weekend, and she had made this comment. she started like kind of poking my body a little bit. And she poked like my midsection, my torso. Probably the most terrifying part of my body to me. And she goes like, wow, you're so firm. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, your body, it's like firm and strong. Cause like, I'm thin, but I'm kind of mushy and soft. You're just, it's so hot. And I've never thought of my body as like firm. I can sometimes think of my body as strong. It's like, I played sports every season for X number of years growing up as a kid. So it's like, I have like a generally, loose athletic form. It's like I look like I go to the gym 5 days a week 6 months ago. It's like I look like I could turn it back on and get back to work. But I've never thought of myself as like firm. I don't have abs. I don't have like these chiseled, strong fucking, muscles compared to, other people I know. And yet this woman is like telling me how hot my body is unsolicited while she's got her hands on it. I'm like, fuck, she must be an idiot or I'm an idiot. Cause like she's got all the evidence she needs. She's got her hands on the evidence. She can see the evidence. She can smell the evidence. And she's still like, you are fucking hot with this firm, clearly thick body. And so then I kind of like took an opportunity to try to discover, another sexy part of me. And so I said, oh, if you think that's firm, feel my thighs. Cause like, look, my thighs I've never thought of as sort of an attractive part of my body. I've always viewed my thighs as an incredibly strong part of my body. When you have the perception of yourself of being a fat ass, you think, well, my legs had to carry this fat ass around for so long. So they must be, really strong trunks. And she grabs it and she's like, holy shit. Because my thighs are fucking firm. It's like we're piecing together sexy parts of my body and I'm accepting them as sexy piece by piece. And I think we're slowly getting to a point where I just might be able to, in my mind, put together a generically hot guy person in my mind and embrace him. Billy's feeling good. Yeah. I hope you're all finding new and healthy ways to feel sexy, right? Before I get to this week's guest, James Tison, I want to read an interesting, two emails. One's quick and this one's more of the advice email that really stood out to me lately. It comes from Jay. Jay writes to me, hi, Billy, big fan of your podcast. I'll be in NY and VA in August, straight 34-year-old Latin man and bi-curious. I would like to know, what do you suggest for me for having fun in New York? I'm looking for maybe sex parties or gangbangs and MMF sex with definitely M2M action. That's male, female threesome. That's M2M. That's boy play, basically, for those who are not into the breves. Please let me know where I can go. I am athletic and hope to find people like me, not perfect body, but that I know I will feel comfortable. Don't entirely know what he means there, but I think what he's trying to say is like, I want people to be hot, even though I know I'm not what other people always consider as hot. But I want to feel comfortable not being surrounded by ugly people. That's just my interpretation of this guy. I might be wrong. He closes with, let me know anything you have in mind for my weekend vacation in New York City and Virginia or any other surrounding city. P.S. I joined ALP and it is only for old people! Exclamation points. Won't recommend to anybody. Best Jay. This email had me conflicted because I initially had like a critical reaction. But I didn't want to be unfair to this dude because he's a dude. As y'all heard on episode 383, a woman asked me a similar question. And although sometimes it can feel a little more irky when a guy wants to obtain like sexual spaces or like wants to get laid more, depending on how he does it, we have to say that's chill. Because if we replace the dude's name with her name and just swap some pronouns, all of a sudden we're going to say, that's empowerment. And I'm not, things don't live in a vacuum, but there's got to be space for one to pursue that. So I'm like, am I being unfair? So I actually went back to look at this other woman's question. They wanted to achieve similar things, having a group sex experience. But they asked me about it in different ways. So I'm going to read hers again. I won't go into my whole response for her, but I'm going to read her message again and just see if you can sense some differences. This woman Kay writes, "Hi, I just found your podcast and I'm totally into it. I work nights, so it's my drive home new favorite question. How does one go about finding sex positive, non-creepy, discreet sex parties? I am leery of some online platforms with signups, etc. Do you have any suggestions to find similar folks interested in similar things in smaller centers or nearby large cities? Asking for a friend in Ontario." And we'll come back to her in a moment, but just note the tonal differences in their messages, right? But let's go back to his email. So, as you hear on the show, I talk a lot about Hacienda. Though they have public non-member events, their sex parties are closed off to members or for members. And since I don't know this guy, like I can't recommend him for their events. This policy helps in screening people that enter our community. And if someone becomes a problem, it reflects upon who referred to them. It's not a sex club. It's a sex positive community. There are sex clubs and swinger clubs anyone can Google and find without me sharing them with, you, Jay. Though I'm not sure which are open right now and in what capacities, to be honest. But there are certainly venues that have nights when single men may attend. I can't recommend any because I don't go to those types of places. They're not the types of parties I'm particularly interested in. Jay, you say you joined ALP. I'm not sure what that is. If you meant APG, well, look, your mileage may vary, just like anything else. There are events on APG listed both in Virginia and in New York City. To say it's only for old people suggests that, quote unquote, old people are not desirable play partners, and that people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are old people. Because when I browse APG, I see a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And then you see some people in their 20s and some people in their 60s and beyond, right? That's kind of averaging out population. To a 20-year-old, you and I, Jay, you're like, we're old people. We're in our 30s. What? Ooh, like you're not on your parents' health insurance anymore. That's right. Like, I remember bringing home when I was 19, I brought home a 27-year-old. And when she left, all three of my roommates stuck their head out of the other roommate's door frame. And they were like, "Bro, what are you doing? She's so old, man. She's like in her late 20s. So do keep in mind your attitude about others while seeking out group sex experiences that would welcome you, as if you are so much better and more desirable than these old people you're referring to. I know communities that will much faster play with an old people couple than you, regardless how in shape you are. Now let's get to your question. It's like, where does Billy send Jay for group sex? I don't. Like I told the other woman, I'd encourage you. And so I'm going to kind of repeat what my recommendation to her was, which I would still repeat to this guy, Jay, but there's just a different, there's a different thing going on here. Like I told her, I'd encourage Jay to start tapping into local communities like Hacienda in his region of the country. Kink communities, poly communities, adult sex ed communities. They exist, and they exist in almost every major city. You just have, and they also exist in like non-major city areas. Maybe not as much the adult sex ed communities, but like there are non-monogamy, poly, and kink groups and factions in all sorts of rural regions as well. It's like it's not just the coastal elites who have all the fun, but yet you just have to find them, and you also have to be the type of person they want to invite in, and type of person does not just mean your looks, your abs, your dick size, your availability. It also has to do with your personality, your knowledge of sex positivity, your judginess, your understanding of consent, your friendliness, your hygiene. Some places may just look at your pics and stats and make a call on you. I just don't know much about those spaces because those are not the spaces I play at. But your email, dude, it's kind of like a personal group sex seeking internet ad that you sent to me. Though coming from a place of enthusiasm, I'm sure. Like, I'm not sure what you expect me to do with your question. You'd be way better off posting on Reddit in a locals subreddit like NYR for R, Dirty R for R, NYC R for R, Random Acts of, the ones I've talked about a lot on the show. Or you can pay for memberships on like those swiping apps that they let you swipe in another city ahead of time to find playmates during your upcoming trip, right? You can also scroll through those same subreddits and you can thoughtfully respond to ads. Seeking single men for group sex. They exist. They're not bountiful, but they're there. Whether or not you even find group sex, who knows? But maybe you meet up with the right kind of people who have done that before. And maybe you behave admirably on a play date. And maybe they invite you to something your next visit. Group sex for the uninitiated or inexperienced or unconnected single male is not this instantly attained invitation. There tends to be some legwork involved. And most men interested in group sex, from what I can tell, are not interested in putting in that work to receive the group sex invites they want. It seems a bit because I feel like we teach men growing up to put their heads down and do X, Y, and Z steps to obtain a goal, right? And I observe a lot of guys trying to get sex the same way they try to get a job promotion. But sex isn't commerce, unless you're hiring a sex worker. You have to empathize with you, like on those X, Y, and Z steps, you have to empathize with human beings on the way to achieving your goal. So those are almost like secondary steps at every step along the way. Because if you're just doing the steps and forgetting about the people involved, you're going to look like an asshole because you are. We don't teach dudes to empathize. We don't teach Americans to decenter themselves. We encourage in this society selfishness. We encourage getting your dream, and we encourage doing the least amount of work to get the most you can. Was it the 80-20 rule? Like do like the least amount of work to achieve the most amount of outcome, that whatever it is, right? That's what we teach. And I think too many people have tried to bring that into their sex and dating lives. I think, and you'll hear that language with a lot of people in the dating coach world or even the pickup world or whatever, right? It's like they're trying to optimize things. They're trying to make dating efficient. They kind of almost take the humanity out of the dating part. Some people turn it into a numbers game. Some people put on these absurd arbitrary rules, whatever. But everyone's kind of disconnecting from the humans involved in the process because they're so focused on getting what they want. So when I put out a gangbang ad with instructions, and I stress the importance of reading the entire ad and following those instructions both at the beginning of the ad and sometimes in the title of the ad, and I probably even remind them at the end of the ad. I'm never surprised when scores of men answer the ad with, hey. That's it, just hey. Or they tell me that the post was too long when I ask them if they read the whole ad. It's not difficult to read an ad and craft 5 to 10 sentences that would make someone want to invite you to an orgy. That's not difficult. A lot of people just don't want to do it. You can be selfish. You can only want to show up and get your dick sucked, and you can still act like a human fucking being in the process. I've done it. I've also not done it. And guess what? I've been shown to be kind of an asshole when I've not done that. Anyways, Jay, you did mention that an MMF threesome is something you would definitely want, right? So there are opposite sex couples with bi or queer men that would love an attractive, respectful, bi-friendly male unicorn. Or stallion, as some people refer to the dudicorns with the dicks. Put an ad out for a couple. You can do this on FetLife, you can do it on Reddit or wherever, and mention that you're open to male-male play. Because I feel like that's a commodity that's in demand and that there's not a lot of supply of. There are plenty of straight identified dudes with dicks who want women with pussies to blow them. There's so many of that. But there's not as many who are open to male-male play. So and then you can also answer ads for the couples seeking single bi guys, because there are plenty of those ads too. And if you really want to explore the bi curiosity, go ahead and answer ads and post some ads and swipe through gay apps for other guys. Group sex with other queer men should be mildly more attainable than being a single straight male stranger invited to a really dope sex positive play party space. The places that will last minute accept a single straight male stranger, likely with an admission fee, is not a really dope sex positive play party space. And so your mileage will heavily vary there. Okay. Now, the woman whose message I read before, that chick, notice the difference in how she asked for what she wanted. He's asking me the Where do I go? What club do I search for? What's the address and entry fee? Kind of a question. Like, that's the tone I get off this guy. I might be wrong. I might be reading him wrong. Jay might email me back and be like, dude, what the fuck? That is not at all what I meant. But just what I got off of him with the words he used, it felt like he just wanted me to point him to the place. And she's asking, what should I do to go find sex parties? And like, inherent in her question is an acknowledgement that she's got to do some work. And even if this guy, Jay, thinks that's what he asked, asking it the way she did shows to the stranger on the internet, me, Billy Presida, who does not know you, that you know that you have to do your own legwork. That assumption is not a given in the world we currently occupy. But hey, you want to just get a blowjob in a fun way? Drive out to Show World in West Babylon on Long Island. They're open to 2, 3, 4 a.m. They have video booths with glory holes. Bring some cash for the machines and stick your dick in an anonymous hole. Someone will likely suck on it. And you'll have to do virtually no effort or legwork to experience that. Anyways, hey, tap into some local communities first instead of seeking a temporary group sex experience in New York City. Though it's attainable, it's just not as likely, dude. Okay, and how do you find those local communities? Well, as I've said many times before, you'll have to sit down, keep your dick out of your hand, and do some research in your local kink, poly, and sex ed scenes. Best of luck to you. Wow. I'm just going to cleanse the palate with a really nice compliment. I'm going to do a quick fan whore appreciation moment, and then I'm going to introduce our guest this week. How do we think of that? Yeah, this one comes in from the very kind Kiara. She writes, Billy, loving what you do. Started listening to you after your episode with Shameless Sex, and I've been referring your podcast to all the lovely lads and ladies who I think would benefit from it. You do the hustle good. So good you made me, in loose terms, join your Patreon. I owe you this after all the listens. And I don't know if it's because I'm in Australia, but I could only find your Patreon through your link on your website. Searching did not work. All the loves, Kiara. Yeah, and Kiara, thanks for the kind words. But as a side note, folks, yes, because my show is marked as adult content, you can't search me in the app if you're not already a patron. So the first time you pledge, you have to go to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Then you can pledge. Then you can download the Patreon app and you'll more easily be able to find me or go to my content over there. But the first time you have to do it, you have to do it on desktop or via a mobile browser and go to the direct URL. It's annoying, I know, but I like to think I'm worth it. Hey. And you can send me an email too with your comments, your questions, your criticisms, any and all things to manwhorepod@gmail.com. All right. Speaking of Patreon, by the way, let's do a quick fan whore appreciation moment. Shout out right now to Shannon Marshall. She's part of the IG team. We love all that heavy engagement. Thanks for all the heart eye emojis and a full year of membership. I hope you enjoy your free month that you get for signing up for a whole year. You can kind of point at a calendar, pick any month you want. We'll just call that the free month. You want November off? You got November off. I'm just that kind of creator. But thank you, Shannon, for supporting the podcast. Thanks for engaging on the socials. Thanks for doing you, boo-boo. And like I said before, you can become a member today at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Go directly to the URL patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And now for this week's guest, James Tison. James is a super fucking funny comedian. I've seen them perform around New York City, and they're just they're really, you're going to see this person on TV. I'm just letting you know. James, if you're listening, take the compliment. James is going to be on the this thing or the that thing, the they thing. Going to be on all the things because they're just really talented. Check out their TikTokies at James Tison. We're going to do a quick ad read from our friends over at hotmovies.com and then get to the show. The Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by hotmovies.com. And, Hot Movies, they are revolutionizing the way we #pay for some of our porn. And they now have a monthly membership subscription called Hot Movies Select Unlimited. It's for the heavy volume user. Check this out. If you, let's say on average, are watching about a half hour of porn a day, because sometimes you have those 2-3 hour marathon days. Some days you're jerking it for 8 minutes, whatever's clever. But like on average, it's a half hour a day. So that's 15 hours in a month. That's over 1,200 minutes of porn viewing access, right? So let's just say you bought like 1,000 minutes. You can buy 990 minutes that you can use on any of the movies on their platform, and that's like $100, right? But if you get the select unlimited membership, that's $24.95 a month for unlimited access to over 34,000 of their full-length movies. That's over 170,000 clips to choose from, with over 20 movies being added every single day. There's no limits, no restrictions, no extra costs. What a steal. What a deal. Look at all the money you're saving on all that porn you're coming over and over and over again to. Come on now. And the way you sign up for Hot Movie Select Unlimited is you go to hotmovies.com. Right? And then you're going to go and you're going to throw in that man whore promo code. You're going to get some extra minutes on the side. And most importantly, it's going to let them know who sent you. And then you're just going to buy the biggest jar of coconut oil or lube that you prefer. And you're going to go to goddamn town on yourself because you deserve it. And you can feel good about it because you know you're not watching it, on some shitty tube site where some random person in Estonia uploaded a bunch of like Sarah J's clips and causing Sarah to have to spend her entire day, having an assistant go just take down those pirated clips. Instead, you can go come to Sarah J on hotmovies.com using your select unlimited membership. That's what's up. That's the way to be. This is the way, folks. Hotmovies.com, promo code manwhore. Now let's get to the show.
What
Never.
Is alone?
Never
What
is
is
alone.
good? What is comedy? All the questions that this brings up.
I don't know anymore moving forward. Is it this?
Is it?
Is it a blog?
Is this stand-up?
I think TikToks are comedy. I feel like you figured that one out.
With my TikTok, I feel like I started it at a really lucky time. Like, I think April of 2020. Well, to back up a second. In March of 2020, I had like $1,000 worth of stand-up gigs for the first time in my life. And I was going to do like an hour at Caveat in the Lower East Side on my birthday, April 6th, 2020. And like everybody, I lost all of that. But I had just gotten this momentum and had all this material, and it was all gone. So my motivation for getting on TikTok was I was sitting on like my hour set and had all these jokes and wanted to just do them. And then plus I had a lot of like tapes from the previous like year or two of stand-up sets and stuff like that. And we've been trapped inside. So I went on right at a time when I think everyone was really, really, really hungry for content, especially if you had any live content, because there was no new live content being made. And so I think it was a stand-up clip and then a couple more, and then it was real. And I don't even have that big of a following still. I'm only at like 50,000 or something, which is like great, but that's not, it works differently than Instagram.
Yeah. On TikTok, 50,000 is like nothing.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's,
No.
I would say it's the equivalent of like, I think probably like 5,000 to 10,000 Instagram followers, which is like not nothing, but it's not like,
Doesn't change your life.
it doesn't change your life. It's not monetized. Like, it is a great starting point I am happy about, but that's how that happened.
When you do, so I'm here with comedian James Tison. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello to you too. When you do stand up, like, and you explain, I've seen you do stand up and do like non-binary bits, right? That kind of explain it all, so that you can do the other jokes moving forward. What was it like to form that material? Because like I have one like they them pronouns joke that I still sometimes get, falls on deaf ears in Indiana. And then I'm like, oh gosh, did y'all not watch CNN? Oh, am I okay? It's like these people don't read bustle. Therefore, but so I can't imagine having to have to integrate that into a stand-up set.
Well, none of us have to do any of this. So there is that. We could all quit tomorrow. And we probably should. But all of that is still so in flux. I still feel very much like I am figuring out my flow and what I want to do long term. Right now, I'm at a place where I feel like I've synthesized that hour that I had last year to like the strongest 15 I've ever had. So that's kind of how it happened, is that I had a bunch of material, and as I feel like some of it either expired or aged out through certain elements of the pandemic, or I aged out of it. Right now, I feel like this is just kind of what I'm left with. And when I go on stage, in a dress and lipstick, I feel still like there's only so far into that set I can get before I have to acknowledge it in some form or fashion. I don't do that in every room, but you saw me in a room where I felt like it was mostly cis people, mostly straight-ish. Like, it didn't feel like, it wasn't like a pride show, honey,
Right.
where everyone's trans and everyone knows. And I also just switch it up quite a bit. I've been trying lately to get as far into the set as I can without having to talk about any identity stuff. But it depends on who's in the audience and what kind of, like yesterday I was at a pride show, and it was Firestarter at Eastville, hosted by Alex Kim and Divya. Oh, I'm gonna butcher their last name. Can I pause and take that again?
It's okay.
Like last night, take from the top. Like last night, I was on a
Line.
I was.
You think I'm cutting any of this?
No,
This is
cut all of
hilarious.
it. No, that's funny. Her name is Divya Gunasekaran. They're both very funny. Anyway, I was on their Pride show last night, which was super gay, and the audience was super gay. But even the like one old white dude in the middle of the room who I could see reacting to everything and just disassociating the whole time, I was like, I need to at least explain it to him and make that the joke.
But was this like a queer dude, a queer older dude?
No,
Okay.
no. It was I think one in that family. I think there was like one lesbian or queer daughter who wanted to go to this pride show, and so brought her very straight family, because when I asked them about it, she said, they're here supporting me. That's the, and she wasn't performing.
Yeah. I was about to say.
So I think that was the story there.
I was driving. I didn't get to go into Pride, but I drove home like after, like in the nighttime of Sunday. I was in Philly, so I'm driving through Manhattan, and I'm seeing like these were clearly like the straight dad dressed like straight dad, but with like was clearly the very out and proud daughter. And he's just trying to be like a good dad. And he's like, I don't care about, the leather they're going to do what they do to each other. Do you feel affirmed, daughter? Or are we getting ready? You ready for college?
Out of all the years of Pride, I've never felt more like empathy for the allies, because as someone who's not an ally, who's just in the community, I was fucking exhausted by Pride this year.
Yeah.
So all those poor people who had to stand around and be like, yes, I support this, I'm there, and I'm like, I don't think I support this anymore. Like, this has gotten out of control. It was such an unhinged Pride this year.
Why is that?
I think we've all been stuck inside for a year and a half, and we didn't get to do Pride last year in the city. I can see this waiting tables. I feel this just anecdotally from the energy at a lot of shows. Like, people are not just going out. They're going out and there's such a high amount of pressure to have fun, because it's been so long since we've had any fun. And a lot of pain that people don't know what to do with it. Yeah. And so they're pouring alcohol on it, or they're, trying to fill every hole. And I love filling every hole, but it doesn't make the pain go away. And what I feel like I experienced this year walking around sober for Pride, because I'm sober anyway, but I had a show in the West Village off the West 4th stop where Pride where the purge happens, you know.
It's like the ground zero for pride.
It is. It absolutely is. It is a war zone.
It's where the rubble is.
Yes. It's also where the like 2 feet of like pure rainbow garbage was the next day. But it was just a lot. People are trying to make up for lost time, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of pain in the air.
Yeah. And do you feel like you need to make up for lost time in some way?
You know, I there's a lot of privilege that let me take a lot of therapy over the pandemic, and I will acknowledge that before I go on this rant. But no, not really. I lost a lot of gigs. I lost a lot of like what we all collectively lost, you know, which was time. Yes. But in terms of like partying or like making up for like, no, I went into trauma therapy. I used the unemployment to like just to chill and center and look inside and try to get better. And maybe some people should have done the same thing. I think maybe if you can look into trauma therapy is my takeaway from this year's Pride.
Yeah. Well, it's like another privilege that I think, and correct me if I have the timeline wrong, but another privilege we both had for at least a good chunk of pandemic was we both had partners that we were with, and like we didn't have to be literally alone if we took it super seriously, or do that whole like, measuring out like, am I gonna go date in 12-degree weather outside situation.
Yeah, I do have a lot of empathy for those people.
Yeah.
I will say I have a partner. I'm still with my partner. But
I just didn't know if you all met during or before or whatever.
No, we met about a year before, actually.
Right.
So I will say it is its own form of punishment having a relationship, especially during pandemic.
You survived it. I didn't.
You didn't.
We broke up in January
of 2021.
We broke up in January of this year, and she actually dumped her other boyfriend that she was living with back in August. So, like, by the end of it, everyone had broken up.
Everyone was broke. Great. Was it mutual, or was it
I instigated it,
explosive?
But it was amicable.
Got it.
Like,
okay.
I think she was waiting for me to do it. But yeah, no, it was, but we, and my theory is we probably would have broken up at some point in 2020 had pandemic not happened, but we went to survivalist mode and we still care about each other. So we went into the being there for each other mode, which is good. It's nice that we got to have that with each other, for such a large part of everything. But you and your boo got to survive all of this. Did you learn anything new about each other?
Well, we didn't have sex for like the entire time.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's one giant misconception that people might have about like, well, you got to have sex. Nope. No, I mean, we were very... pandemic was extremely, and I mean this in the literal sense of the word, triggering. I mean, literally, by 3 months in, my body was shutting down, would not let me do any of the, like... just my whatever life I had been able to build within working at home or whatever, I couldn't sustain even that because, I mean, for me, stand-up had become such a coping mechanism until March of 2020, and it was all, you know, all of my coping mechanisms were ripped away. So I personally went back. I think my partner and I both did, if I can speak for them on this. They're not here. It was like a computer running old software, like just old demons, old shame points around everything, but including sex.
Like what? What kind of shame points?
I mean, just in terms of like queer sex in general, I find that I'm still carrying around at 34, having come out of the closet at 15, a ton of shame around just the baseline attraction to men. Mm-hmm. Still to this day. And I think maybe progress was made, and then when I had to sit inside and do nothing for months, progress was lost. So we both, I mean, we went to couples counseling, and we're a lot better now. We've really made it through some dark-ass times, but no, it was not having a partner and staying with that partner was not like we did it, Joe. Yeah. It was holy shit. We almost didn't do that, Joe.
Yeah, libido's fucking tanked. Like, I mean, I think the first 5 days was a little bit fuckfesty. And then after that, once I started seeing like the videos of like, oh, look at this Nashville warehouse party, not caring. And I was like, ooh, this is, you know, it made me not, I was like, I don't think I jerked off for the first 3 weeks of COVID.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? It was just like, I was just like not independently horny.
I mean, that was a lot of it for me. A lot of it became very compartmentalized. Like, I got really into, and my partner and I will say too, both have, I think a lot of queer people have this, very compartmentalized libidos. I think a lot of people have this, but all of our sexual urges had to be like in either a literal closet or a metaphorical closet for a very long time. And it's really hard to unpack that stuff. And so when two people have that same kind of baggage, we both will what did our therapist call it? Avoidance tactics. So we both will go, months without acknowledging the fact that we haven't had any sexual connection if we don't kind of check on ourselves to not keep all of our sexual urges like isolated to masturbation or camming at home or whatever it is.
Was there a lot of talks when did y'all finally acknowledge to each other, hey, we haven't been having sex?
It was a long conversation. There's also so many other factors in our relationship. I will say, my partner is trans and has started transitioning. Like, actually, she started estrogen patches maybe like a year and a half ago now, and started injections about 2 months ago or 3 months ago. And so separate from anything going on with us or our baggage or whatever, this person has estrogen in their body and their sexual energy is completely changing. Like, we're now far enough in that it doesn't feel so like in a cocoon zygote stage. But, when you're getting those injections, your testosterone is decreasing. Your libido is decreasing. You can actually, some people get their own form of horny or like a new form of horny, and like your entire relationship to sex sort of changes.
Yeah.
And then for my part, I already have shame issues about being attracted to men, right? We're in an open relationship, but I found that the more that she transitioned, and I'm still attracted to my partner, there's still a strong sexual spark, but I'm attracted to men as well. And maybe primarily in terms of like, I know what to do. I know I've been jerking off to that for years. It is not a mystery to me how to like navigate like a man's body and also my attraction to a man's body.
Right.
And that doesn't make me transphobic. But even just being able to say that in a relationship with my trans partner, that took me forever.
You're navigating a new situation.
Yes. And also, I'm non-binary. This is the first relationship for both of us.
I was about to say, you both need to have like a PhD in gender studies, I feel like, to date each other. It's like, what?
Really, yeah. Or just like an awareness at the very least. It took us, I think, like a long time to even acknowledge and understand what it might mean that like, oh, this is the first time that either of us is dating and sleeping with someone who is not a man. Mm-hmm. And it's new. It's very different. Also, every relationship like survey and psychologist and scientist says that apparently around 2 years is when whatever original spark you had as a couple will disappear, and you have to build like this other sustainable thing that's not that initial like we want to fuck spark.
Yeah, that's why I say introduce anal like 2 years in, so you have something new and exciting. You know, it's
well,
like,
for straights, if you hold off on that'll
I'm just like, when do I offer her my butt? I don't know. This seems too early.
I've had to ask the same question with the same pronouns.
Oh, yeah, fantastic! It's how much do your gender identity and the change in gender identity like is the relationship transitioning well, do you think? Are there roadblocks you ran into and then got past? Are there ones you're still dealing with?
I think it's like anything, like any, an individual will always have the demons that they have. Like, I'm never going to lose my demons. I'm going to as I get older, I've made maybe other noises in my head to listen to, other voices, other things that I know to pay attention to those and not let the demons have so much power, right? That's just as an individual, I think any of us can really do. And I think it's the same for relationships. So yeah, no, there are still blocks, but we have many, many, many more tools now, I think, after a year of, because she's also in her trauma therapy, I'm in my trauma therapy, and then we've been in couples counseling, and we're both in a version of sobriety as well. Like, I don't drink alcohol, and she's been clean from meth for like 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
So I hate talking about this, or I love talking about it. Who am I kidding? I feel vulnerable talking about it because as I'm saying this, I'm like, God, I'm 34, and it feels like baby steps. But it is baby steps. Like, I think a big part of it is us learning new tools to navigate these things that keep coming up, because they don't go away.
Yeah.
In any relationship, by the way.
Absolutely.
None of this is new for me in relationships.
Yeah. Well, what's a tool that's been incredibly helpful that you didn't have before lockdown, before trauma therapy?
So many things. I'm really, relationships have bids for attention. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, but and every relationship has this, like whether it's romantic or not, where, it's like you're in a car, right? And whoever you're with says, "Oh, look at that tree," or "Oh, look at that weird billboard," and it's not. They're not looking for you to like. It's not a big deal, but the person does need you to just be like, "Oh yeah." And it's a bid for attention, right?
Yeah.
It's just simple, like, oh, look at that thing.
Not even
Okay,
relationships.
cool.
You'll be at a pizza shop and the guy next to you decides to say a thing because, like, I know you want me to respond because you're trying to connect with a human in a moment because you're alone in the crowd of New York City at Joe's Pizza. And so you want me to acknowledge the thing you saw. So you're bonded for a fucking I get that, but gosh, do I find it annoying.
Oh, yeah. But yeah. When I, first of all, bid for attention, all I called them for like the first 6 months of our relationship was, what?
Like, I would actually respond better if you said, "Hi, can you look at me for a moment?"
I would too.
I would love to do that.
But that's not how people work. And also that's not how I work. So that's the other thing, is I'm a huge hypocrite because I have a million bits for attention a million times a day. But anytime she wants to be like, "Oh, did you see that?" Well, what do you want? Like, so a big tool was just like, don't be an asshole. But no, honestly, the best tool, I think, when we start getting into like, oh, are we about to have a fight territory, is, again, it's such baby steps, but repeating back to the other person what they've said before I respond, and to have this like agreement between the two of us that like, this is how we are now we are repeating back to each other mode.
We're going to share facts. Because if you
And
disagree
feelings.
with what I'm saying you just said, then we'll have to handle that. You know what I mean?
It's more about training. Before I respond, I'm going to make sure I understood what you just said.
Oh, okay.
So, like, if you say, I feel XYZ about, the way you spoke to me today, before I say, well, but I have to take the moment to say, you feel XYZ about the way that I spoke to you today. Oh. And if I get it wrong, then they say, well, no, that's not what I said. I said, I feel this, this, this. It's like, okay, you feel this, this, this. Right? Okay, so I feel... Wow. And it's almost like a waiting period to buy a gun. Like, it just calms everything down, and it makes sure, because what we'll both do, and what I've seen a lot of couples do, actually, because first of all, I'm a child of divorce. Second of all my straight friends are in miserable couples. Sure. Or couples that fight every now and then, and it forces your brain to like make sure you heard what the person is saying before your brain starts writing a story about what the person has said. Mm-hmm. And all of our fights have been when one of us has said something and then the other person runs with whatever story it is about what I've just said.
However they believe they've translated it.
What they meant.
Without confirming that this is actually what just happened.
Yes.
Yeah. That's wild.
It's so simple, and it's the most helpful tool in the world.
I love that. The communication ones help just so much where you go like, how did you function without them? There's something called the Triforce of Communication that this show called Multiamory came up with, which I'm just like, how did a podcast come up with this tool that like I don't understand how it's not universally taught? It's I use it most of the time when I'm in like their message boards because that's where I just happen to see it mostly. It's, you know, you'll start a post with T1 or T2 or T3 or whatever, and then you say the stuff you're saying, because you're sharing what kind of response you're looking for. So I might be mixing up 1 and 2, but they're basically like, one of them is, I just need someone to tell me like, yeah, that sounds really tough. Like I need someone like kind of like emotionally validate. It doesn't matter what's really being said. You're just like validating the emotions happening.
Yep.
There's another one that's like more like relating to it. Like, I felt that way when this, or here's some, you know, it's saying like, you're not alone in this whatever struggle. Me and my husband thought about blank. Oh, we've thought about blank too. Something like that. And the third one is the one that, oh gosh, do I need to be told you don't need this one? And I have to catch myself often saying, unless they ask for this, shut your fucking mouth, Billy, or be more, or turn the empathy brain back on. But T3 would be like looking for advice. How many times do you either receive or give advice after hearing something, and maybe they just need to get a hug and say like it's going to be okay?
Almost never is anyone looking for advice, and that's such a hard lesson for me as well, and especially I am so happy you said that, because that is also my biggest, I think, piece of shit attitude or behavior that just is not helpful when someone, it's like you're saying, I just need you to tell me that sounds hard.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you to tell me how I need to go to dance classes so that I can get better at dancing so that the next time that's not what I'm saying. I just need you to say, that sounds hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in non-romantic stuff, just like, you know, you're telling a friend about a thing and he just starts throwing ideas at you. And then it's like, well, can you just say
That's not
something?
where I'm at.
Or some people do need the advice, and then if I'm doing too much of the empathy thing, and they're like, okay, but can you actually give me some suggestions? I'm like, oh, great, awesome. I had an entire notebook of ideas for you ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like that as well. It's like, once they ask, I'll have the notebook.
It'll
I have
be
a
my
long
moment.
list. Yeah.
But tools like that are so incredibly helpful. Just what you just shared made me go, oh, I got to remember that one.
It's the best, and also it's not just about romantic relationships. I really am trying to think about how I engage with people in general, because if there's anything I've learned from, you know, this relationship, which is now 2.5 years in, people just want to be heard sometimes, and it doesn't always matter that you're right. And that's really hard for me because I'm right so often.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah, it's
Hi,
such a burden. Yeah.
I use that word too. It's the burden of being right.
Yeah,
That's
it's hard.
Oh gosh, glad to meet someone else like me.
But it's not. But it's so, and I think this really applies. You know, I'm obviously a progressive, queer. You know, tax the fuck out of rich people. Like, I'm not in the DSA. But
You're DSA curious?
I'm DSA curious. I just want to be able to vote in the New York primaries mainly. But I used to be Working Families Party. I say all of that to say, like, I also have family in Texas, and I see just the communication divide between, like, what I see happening in New York, which is often a lot of liberals fighting amongst each other about things that back home they don't fucking care. We're all the same to them, and we're all ruining the country to them, right? And meanwhile, we feel the same way about them. And I see so many people shut down things that, like, they would believe in because they got yelled at, because they didn't feel heard, and they're wrong. They are spiritually, intellectually, politically wrong. The policies they support are fucking evil. But how often does it happen that everyone leaves with no minds changed?
Yeah.
And I don't know, especially in Texas right now, it feels very just like anger and violence in the air at every event. My mom is reporting back to me, and yes, we all have anxiety disorders in my family, so there is that lens, but it's just still there's still so much Trump anger in, like, where my family is. And then after a day like yesterday with Pride, we are not okay on our end either. Like, we need to examine what's going on for us. There is something driving a level of unhinged across the country. So I don't know. I just think it's not just helpful for romantic relationships.
Yeah.
This idea of like, I hear what you're saying, even though it is the most irrational piece of shit opinion I've ever fucking heard in my entire life. I hear it. If you don't say that last part, you can get the person to hear the next thing you want to say. I don't think I have. I'm not sitting here being like, if we all just repeated back to each other, we would fix this country. I'm not saying that, but I do think it's like what you're saying with like the T1, T2, T3. I think yelling at someone about how wrong they are is the giving advice of political discourse, right? It totally turns the person off. They're not going to take it. Right? If you give advice to someone who's in like this state of like they're not looking to fix it, they're not going to fucking listen to you. If anything, they're going to be mad that you tried to give them advice, and then I don't know,
and then double down harder, and then
double down harder. At the same time, there are some pretty fucking exhausting people who are not just like having a stupid opinion, but expressing it in a way that is like super disgusting. So I'm definitely also not saying like when someone's like attacking you need to be
there's a difference between
like,
disgusting and just inaccurate,
right? Or just like I think about J.K. Rowling, for instance, is I think the general opinion around trans women in bathrooms is like really ignorant. It is really driven by like a lot of really disgusting opinions about trans people and fears about trans people that have no real bearing in the reality of what it is to be.
It's not a thing that's literally ever happened.
It's not whether or not it's ever happened in the history, because it's like the same thing when like when it comes to like progressives and liberals, right? It is not hard to find a dumb progressive, right?
Sure.
On Twitter, and pull that Twitter off of that tweet off of Twitter and put it on Fox News and be like, look how dumb these progressives are, right? They do it all the time. It is not hard to find an individual example of like whatever it is that you're talking about. It's not hard to find an example of women being attacked in bathrooms.
Right, but they're worried about like me pretending to be trans,
right,
just to do the attack and then come out and take the wig off and be like, yeah, no, whatever.
Exactly.
That doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist.
Because
and if
like
it does exist,
if I want to
that's a crazy person who is looking to like rape and murder you, and that's illegal.
Right. If I want to rape and murder someone in the bathroom, I'm not gonna. It's not like I think the wig is the thing stopping me. Right. It's like.
Or if it's just you're talking about the like exception to the exception to the except, like, yes, there are crazy fucking people. That is not the conversation we're having.
Yeah.
That we're
so
having.
How do you have those conversations when you're back home in Texas?
Well, but then,
or do you just not have them?
The other half of this then is that women do get attacked, right?
Yeah.
The thing that there's so much unchecked trauma in that the conversation around that issue. And I don't know. As I talk about this, I don't have the solution.
Like when you go home, do you try to enforce like your pronouns with people, or do you let things slide maybe more in Texas than out here?
Absolutely, my partner's pronouns, 100%,
Sure.
because she is she.
Sure.
And I am like he, they. So if someone says he, I'm not. I don't.
Can you
care.
explain a little bit about like because I think a lot of people who mean well see it. I know I do, where you'll see someone's like pronouns on Twitter, and I think a lot of people there are people adjusting to they them, and now they're seeing like she, they, he, they, and then they're like, oh gosh, you threw me in for a loop.
I think it's for me, it's more just like interchangeable. I don't really care. I think the conversation around pronouns is it just depends on kind of the individual.
Sure.
I hate to say that because I want there to be like very easy to follow rules that make allies able to be allies on just like to just do it without having to think. And it's so different for everybody. Yeah. I know for me, I don't personally care if you interchange them. There might come a point where I feel more strongly about that, but that's not to say that the people who do feel strongly about it, I believe them that it truly sends their brain into a state of chaos and upset on a regular, to be misgendered on a regular basis. So it's just, I think the individual. I do want to add one tie up to the messiness of the J.K. Rowling thing I was just saying, because I think the point I'm trying to make is I agree it's a disgusting attitude and it comes from a place of trauma, but these TERFs are working out their trauma on the trans community, and it's not fair. That doesn't change the fact that, like, I can see the fucking trauma in the conversation on their end, and for our side, it does not help to go on Twitter and tell those people to fucking kill themselves. It doesn't help. If anything, it makes it worse, because I see that their behavior is disgusting. They need to stop their behavior. It does not help to completely ignore the fact that, like, it comes from a place of trauma. Even as they're weaponizing that trauma, it does not help to be like, well, fuck it anyway, fuck your trauma, and fuck you, go kill yourself. And I just see so much of that right now.
Yeah, a lot of hurt people.
On all sides, yes, on all sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you and the partner feel like a pride of like lasting and not breaking up during the pandemic? Is there a sense of like, babe, we did it?
I don't know. No,
Sure.
because it was too hard. It's like, I mean, it's been rewarding and I love my partner very much, but oh God. I just don't have a quality judgment about it. I think that's what I'm trying to say, because I think if you left your partner or stayed with your partner, as long as you did what was like authentic to what you needed to do to like treat yourself and others well, then that's the victory. And that, I think that's kind of how I think about it.
Okay. Well, another thing that like we had to do in the beginning, I mean, you know, to one degree or another, was like non-monogamous people had to have these additional conversations of like, so you and your partner are non-monogamous. I assume there was a level of tightening things up when everything broke down, and that there might be a loosening of that and an exploration of other people again.
Yeah,
how's all that been going for you?
I basically didn't have sex with anybody for a year and a half because my partner and I weren't really having sex, and we closed the relationship.
Right.
It's hard to reopen. I feel very personally kind of awkward navigating new people in general. So at the same time, I'm like viciously horny. Like, I need to get fucked. I need someone to fuck me. And my partner and I are having
start tapping it into the mic.
I am James Tison on Instagram. My DMs are open. And my partner and I are having more sex now. We did like a sex workshop, and we're in a much better place. But
cool.
I also need to have sex with a man. I need a man to put his dumb man body on top of mine and just pound away with his stupid, like, lack of intelligence. I need a dumb, like, animal to just fuck me. And I know this. I know I need it. And it's still been hard to get past this, for me, shame hurdle, or just not even shame, but like social anxiety barrier of like, right, other people, there's a before and an after. How do I talk to them? Like, I had one hookup I went through, you know, the old texts and stuff of like, all right, what's surefire? And I just, you can never go back. I just, like, it was a mistake.
This sounds like me, like, looking at the waiver wire during fantasy football season, and like, I need a wide receiver. Who can I bring it? Who has been reliable, but maybe not lately? Let's bring them back. And you know what? They're always a dud and give you 3 points. But like, I know that feeling of just going back to like, who could I maybe rely? Larry Fitzgerald once was reliable. Okay, I'm gonna go into a rabbit hole that no one listening understands. But yeah, I'm glad.
That's exactly what it's like. It was like, in gay terms, it was like Lindsay Lohan coming back to acting to do that Elizabeth Taylor made for TV movie. It's like, yo, we used to like her. This doesn't work anymore. And that's what it was like. It was like, oh, I remember having successful sex with him once, like 6 years ago. And then he came over, and it was just for the reason I never texted that guy back.
Why was he not good?
Oh, he was... I think he's just a Republican. To be honest, he's fine. He seems like
is Republican
a
synonym
sad...
for bad in bed? Is that how you use it?
No, well, I don't know.
Oh, he was so Republican. Oh my God, you vote for Trump? No. It was just, you know, he's bad in bed.
No, he just seems like he doesn't seem very happy in New York.
Sure.
Like he's moving to Florida specifically because, quote, New York was too uptight about COVID. It's like, okay, we had like 100,000 people die. Like, but okay, sure, go have fun in Florida. I think you're just a Republican. That's fine. Just go. Yeah.
Did your partner used to provide that kind of energy that you were before in a previous sexual dynamic of like, I just need to feel like masculinity on me?
When we first met, my partner identified more as like he, they.
Okay.
And hadn't fully, I think, embraced who she was. And so, yes, but it was very kind of role playing, which I love role play, but that's not quite the same as what I'm talking about. Where
You're just like, I want you to pretend to be my coach.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just that at the end of the day, my partner has never been a man. Like,
Sure.
and so it, we did for a minute, but it was like a kind of like a, I mean, I could try this. You know, when you're with someone new, I think, you start trying on, like, is this who I am now? And
I peed on someone last week. I was just like, is this me? I don't know. Let's try it.
You know what? It is now. You did it.
Yeah, you try things for someone else, especially if you're like into them, and you know.
Right, yeah. And I think she keyed into that fact that I am like definitely like playing like a submissive boy. And the older I get to at 34, the fact that I can still, you know, people still want to cast me as boy. I'll take the role as long as they'll give it to me. So, but definitely not really much anymore.
Sure.
Because there's sort of an emotional cost, I think. Well,
I wouldn't imagine her to put on that now. I was just wondering if maybe in pre-transition she presented in a way that maybe fed that, but it sounds like not. But it's also interesting to me like how the sexual relationship and dynamic transitions as people within a relationship transition or discover themselves. Like I used to date someone who was genderqueer, came out as that during the relationship. Previously thought she was just more of a lesbian that felt weird things around me. You know, now it's like, hey, could you call me daddy? But can we do some more? You know, and so okay, we're peppering in some handsomes in between the sexies and beautifuls, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So a dynamic changed in that relationship, in the sexual part of that relationship. So I was curious if there was any of that at play.
I think so. A lot of it, I'm realizing how much of sex is taking place in my own head. Like so much of interacting with another person in general, I guess, is about what's going on and the story of how I am understanding it to be going.
Yeah.
Right. Beyond what's actually happening. And gender is largely, I think, in my head as a like there are physical changes to my partner. Like she has definitely gone from having like kind of pecs to having like about a B cup, right? But you know, she still has the penis and she's still the top. So there are changes, but so much of it is like not about the actual physical changes. So much of it is her understanding of herself has changed, is so much clearer. Like she is a woman. There's also more estrogen in the room. Like so much of sex is chemical as well. And then there's also like for me, my conscious understanding that like I am with a man and in whatever raw, like animalistic terms almost that means. But I don't know, so much of sex is in our head is kind of what I'm realizing, whether it's gender or the role you play, and not even like in role play, but in terms of like submissive, are you being penetrated? What does that mean? And like, it's really complicated.
Yeah. And then it sounds like you're trying to figure that out with like potentially new people as well. Like as you're exiting and maybe searching for that, I need to get fucked.
Yeah, it's hard. I think I hope I'm not alone in this, but I do feel like I have been thinking for a year and a half about how I'm going to fuck other people, and now it's here, and it's like, oh God, what if they reject me? Right? What if I don't know how to do it anymore? That's me peaking the levels.
Yeah. I was also concerned. I think the first thing I was concerned about was stamina. I was like, oh fuck, what's my stamina gonna be like coming out of all this?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I was like, oh, I gotta start training.
Can
start
I get
edging
through
again.
it without crying? Like, I mean, there's just a lot of emotion, and I think I'm not alone in this. Like, we all have trauma in our bodies from this past year and a half. I will yell this for what feels like maybe the next couple years, because it's just real. And I don't know, sex is so fragile for me right now. All human connection feels very fragile for me right now.
Absolutely.
Just a house of cards.
Yeah. And then how are you like? I mean, was that hookup when you went back into the waiver wire of like your past fucks and found the Republican? Have you been doing a lot of that? Has that been like an isolated incident?
That was
isolated.
It's been doing a lot of like texting and sending pics and stuff, and
but still haven't gotten to the.
Yes, and at this point, I don't think I'm alone in the social anxiety, because now it's not just me bailing. It's I feel like people are in the same place, because I now have several times been like, okay, I'm ready, come over, cleared for landing, and it's like, to have someone flake, and yeah.
And I've been the flake. I've been flaked
I've been
on,
both.
and I've been the flake.
Oh yeah,
I think God, we don't have time to do shit we don't want to do anymore. I don't think so. So it's like. And so sometimes it's like it's canceling a date with someone I didn't actually really want to go on the date with anyway. Or it's someone I really want to fuck around with. But in that moment or in that afternoon, I'm realizing, you know what? I don't think I'm feeling like fucky today.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you. When I say I reschedule, I want to reschedule. Just right now, if you come over, I don't know that I'm going to pounce you the way I know you want to be pounced, right?
Right.
It's really like I want to be intentional with as much as I'm doing these days, especially in my sex and dating life. Because like, there will be a time for those first dates that like, oh, we go on because let's go. Not right now. Don't got time for a date I feel ambiguous about.
Yeah, I think that's very much a good point. I feel that way about stand-up and comedy in general right now too, or just in general. Like, I don't really want right now to do gigs that I don't want to do. Like, I feel like, based on my experience before pandemic, once I go and I do about 6 weeks worth of open mics, that I'll get all the bar shows and all the things and get my schedule built up. But right now I cannot possibly imagine like taking a 6 train up to the fucking Bronx to do some bar show at a cafe for dining patrons who did not want
who didn't know it was
stand-up show
even
to be there tonight. So I will get that hustle back, but I feel the same way about that, where it's just like I don't want to.
Yeah. I know this is going to be strange to hear like a straight white man say, but it's like I can't think of things like I really desperately need to say on a stand-up stage in this moment, and so I'm like kind of electing not to. Like I'm just like, you know what, I have like do I have things in my mind I want to write down first and like work out, but like I don't have this need to just get on a microphone in front of who knows who and just do. I'm like I want to be intentional. Like when I've got the bit I'm fucking excited to go do, I'm gonna go do it. Someone wants to book me on a show, they reach out to me and book me. I got stuff I can do. I got plenty of material I can do, but I don't need to go right now and do it all. And I don't need to go hustle doing, 10 plus open mics in a week to do just to rehearse probably mostly the same stuff I already know works or doesn't work already. That feels weird to say that I'm not like out hustling the stand-up stuff, but you feel after our conversation last time, feel safe to say that in front of me.
I do. I mean, it's true. I feel like now that I am back in stand-up after a year and a half of not doing it, right, and doing therapy, and I feel like the taking the break and the doing the therapy and the meditation and the building a gym routine and like that is I got distracted by you.
Sorry, I just heard gym routine. Like, James doing some gym routine.
I do CrossFit actually. Yeah. And you know what? That I have been doing it for 8 weeks and I haven't tweeted about it once. So I think that is
proud of you.
Right.
I couldn't last 8 minutes. 8 minutes into my first yoga, I was like, I do yoga now.
But I mean, especially the meditation. I'm not gonna lie. Like, so when you say like not doing it is like where I'm at right now, I think honestly not doing it is sometimes what you need to do to get better at it. and to sit with where you're at and change your worldview and what do you want to talk about? What do you want to say on stage? There are not enough people asking themselves that question.
No, they're just eager to get on the stage.
Right. And for what?
For exactly, that's what I'm saying now. Like I did one bar show. I went to Queens. I did an ambush show that I didn't realize how much of an ambush show it was going to be. There was a hockey game in the back, and apparently there's a large table of people who came for the hockey game. You know, it was like, it was nice to be on the thing. It was nice to get some laughs, but it was not how I wanted to spend my time. Like, I'd rather go hang out around comedy right now than do stand up until like I know what I want to say. Like, I'm also different now. I feel healthy for the first time ever in my life. I don't know how to tell some of the jokes as a healthier Billy that were written as an unhealthy. Like, I don't know how to self-deprecate responsibly right now.
Yeah.
Am I gonna lose a lot of progress I had, or do I have enough confidence I can do some self-deprecating stuff and I don't actually believe? I don't know that, so I'm just gonna like hang tight, keep doing my slut show, keep doing my fans only, and then like when the bits are ready, like I know where to go do 10 open mics a week are.
Honestly, I think that is the exact right attitude, and I wish if I could say, like, I'm 34 now. If I could tell like 20-year-old me anything, it would be everything you just said. Like, I started stand up in 2009, and I didn't do it like hard the way I should have until like 2017. But where was I going with that? You were talking about...
You wanted to tell 20-year-old James something brilliant that 32-year-old Billy Procida said.
Yes, I did.
That like you don't have to go hustle it all hard, and you know it's better to take care of yourself probably.
That's it. That's really what it is. It's better to take care of yourself. You have to be like, I think it's a total like lie. Oh, whatever you need to do.
I keep trying to play with the AC. Like, can I can't? No, I can't handle it.
No. It's so hot today. If there is a low hum behind this podcast, then I need your listeners to politely get over it. It is so hot today.
We will do noise reduction 5 times and see if that works. But sorry. But you want, but like a healthier comic might actually be a funnier comic and a better comic.
And not necessarily, funny is different for everybody, but what I realized this year, what I want out of this business and this life is the chance to work for as long as I want to fucking work, which is long. I want to be able to do the thing, which in this case is stand up. What happened to me was I was doing the 8 shows a week, getting up. And by the time pandemic hit, I was running on fumes because stand-up and the hustle and the scene and all of that had become my primary coping mechanisms. And I now know from having totally burnt out around July of 2020 and going to trauma therapy and stuff, so much of stand-up replicates trauma in a way. And once you get good at it or you start to like feel calm on stage, the reason I think for me it became like a primary coping mechanism is that it artificially recreates the feeling of something traumatic because dopamine and stress and everyone's watching you, but you have to train your brain to find the calm within that, right? Yeah. Which is why I think I totally latched onto it, was able to do it so hard for 2 years. But I'm not totally convinced my April 6th show was going to be good. And that's because I had burnt out my like creative stuff. I mean, I had everything I'd written, sure, but I don't know that I totally had it. I don't know that I think I was kind of losing that sense of like calm within the storm because I wasn't actually dealing with the things that I needed to deal with. And now back on stage, I feel much more like on the stage, present in the moment with the material that I have written, which are like the core things of actually doing the stand-up. So if that goes away, then what are you even doing with your hustle?
And when I saw you, a few weeks ago, you were like on 9s with that. You were, just
thank you.
Very present, very much like you've been on stage nonstop for years, right? Like even, despite our collective break in a way. So you present all that, and then the jokes are fire.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
I do have one stand-up related question.
Oh.
This might be an annoying stand-up non-binary question, but
Oh, no, yeah.
I thought of this in the beginning. Then we went into like awesome things about love and relationships. Do you when your gender your presentation has a spectrum? I've seen you in a lot of different outfits, all fabulous, but just a variety of looks. And do you ever pair how you are going to present yourself on stage with a certain type of set list or material? Do you not do some jokes when you're dressed like this versus when you're in the dress and the makeup?
So much of that depends on how I'm going to get to the club.
Okay.
It really does.
Yeah.
If I or a bar or wherever it is, because if I know, and like, because there are times where I'll be wearing like a dress that's like not actually that like fabulous, but it's just like a dress that's just like a floral like day dress or sundress or whatever. And if I'm at like a club I know, and like I know I can get there safely or whatever, it's more about like how much stress am I going to want to have to deal with on the way there, of people staring, of people whatever.
Are you in the headspace to be stared at or not? It's probably.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes though there are specific sets that there's one joke in particular that I have about a specific dress that I wear, and I am totally guilty of like wearing that dress more than I would ever actually wear it in reality as like for that joke.
In your future touring headliner life, you have like 10 of that dress because you want to be able to wear it on
exactly. Although I have tried to rectify that by coming up with some sort of self-deprecating joke about everything I wear. But the one about that dress is actually my favorite. So I do, when I find that I want to do that one, I will force that outfit on the world.
Sure. So and do you then, when you've like done your safety and mental check on, well, what do I feel like wearing out and about today that I feel comfortable and safe, et cetera, and do you then dictate the set kind of based on that? Does it get more or less queer or?
It never gets less queer.
Okay.
It never does that, but it does take on like all right, is this like a 101 crowd or like a 201 crowd, or like it's kind of like I was saying earlier, where like I will change my material often in the room, like when I arrive. And right now I have probably like 20 to 25 minutes to draw on that I feel is like in really solid shape, that and I'll just kind of put that in different orders.
Sure.
Depending on, so like I have some stuff that like if I feel the room is super straight or specifically not super fluent in like the LGBTQIA community, then I have the stuff that sort of holds their hand more.
Sure.
And kind of it's often just in the room.
Sometimes you can walk in, if you're dressed maybe in like in a more feminine way, you can like almost see how they're reacting to you just walking in the room, and then you're like, a lot of smiles, all right. If not, a lot of confusion. Oh, let's maybe do these things instead.
I learn it's easier to tell based on how they're reacting to like the opener or something like that,
Yeah.
or like what other kinds of jokes the other people are telling, so that if someone says something a little homophobic and
Sure.
that does well, it's like, all right, I need I gotta really address this head on.
It's another thing I think a lot of comics who might just don't think about. Because I don't have to think about that. Like the most I have to do is like, okay, am I going to do weight stuff? Well, how do I look? Do I look dumpy and this is going to make sense? Or do I have to be like, no, I lost? But now it's, I always looking dumpy because,
you
COVID
don't.
weight stop. There are certain shirts look better. There's some t-shirts that are now weight loss goals again.
Great.
You know what I mean? It's like,
If flesh, that's just having a body and being over 30.
But like other than that, like I never have to think about what's the context of me in this room, right? Because like I'm like the Sims character default context in a way. I was in Amsterdam once. I did a show there. I'm up in the green room, and in Amsterdam, they all speak English and Dutch. For the most part, everyone speaks it pretty like you can interchange. So the comics up there, they're all speaking English to kind of each other, they're speaking English to me, and they say, "Oh, we wish we'd known there was going to be American on the show. We would have prepared some of our set in English." And that's when I thought, "Oh my God, you have to like prepare. You can't just like, oh, I'll just tell that joke in English or in Dutch now. They have to actually prepare the set list." Which jokes they can tell in which language. Some of them you can't do them in both. Some have different references or turns of phrases, right? So they have to actually so if you're a multilingual comic who also can speak English, right? It's like you really are preparing. I don't have to do that. I get to do the thing where you just walk in, look the room, see how they react to the headline and stuff. But I never thought about like what language are we speaking? What like national cultural references can we do? How am I presenting? How are they taking me in?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the most I can relate to that is like, do they think I'm one of those guys or not?
Right,
You know what I mean? Like that's about
well,
it.
that's real though too. I mean, that
Right.
is definitely like you were talking about being in Indiana. I'm sure versus like if you were doing a Pride show. I do think that is actually.
I got to throw those genderqueer jokes out early. Let them know I know about that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think especially if you ever did a Pride show, you would have to like clarify, like, I'm not a bully. I'm not going to, unless you want, but.
They beat me up too, I swear.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But so yeah, no, I thought of that when we were at that show. I was just like, oh, I wonder like if James dresses more like this, or if James just wears jeans and a t-shirt, like if the set changes. And I guess that's that's just a whole nother mental process to go through as a comic.
I will say there are some jokes that I have that do seem to just rely on me being in a dress because it or I shouldn't say that even. There's a joke I make about a man in a dress that doesn't seem to. I'm trying to figure out how to make it work without me being in a dress. But one thing though I just thought of that I realize I'm still doing it. I've been trying to find material that is just aiming for like what I find to be illogical or unreasonable about aspects of our society, right? Like just like kind of I think the baseline assignment for observational material. And even within that, like I have something about like, why does the news cost money on the internet? And even within that, I can feel like last night there was this like portion of the room that felt very, no offense, but bridge and tunnel, Long Island, heterosexual suburb folk. Mm-hmm. And I'm
my
there,
cousins.
Right. Yeah. My cousins. And I'm there in my jumpsuit, my lipstick, and, even within that bit, as I go to complain about the news, I preface that. I just realized I preface that with like, now we all know that I'm like a PC faggot or whatever, right? Just to like break that, because I feel like those people would not even listen to me do observational material about something like the news without acknowledging, even though it's not political what I say about the news. The news shouldn't cost money. Like that's literally the point of the joke. Anyone can agree with that. And I feel like if I don't do that, like, I know we maybe don't see eye to eye, but this thing. So even within, I just realized.
I mean, that's comedy. It's making people laugh at things that they, maybe would disagree.
But Jerry Seinfeld doesn't have to go out there and be like, that I'm this, but how about airplanes?
Sure.
Right? He can just say, how about airplanes?
Fair.
I still don't feel like I can do that.
You feel like you can't just talk about airplanes without addressing...
Without in some way acknowledge... Yeah, kind of. Yeah, because... And it's because of... I don't trust the audience to not just go there with me. Just it sucks that the news costs money. Right? But I truly think, and it might be
I'm
my own...
squeezing my pen every time you say that, by the way.
What?
Because we disagree on that, which we don't have to get into. I do squeeze my hand every time you say, the news shouldn't cost money. I go like, oh gosh, there's so many like reasons. I feel like we need to change the entire environment of like how it's okay. We need to change the financial incentive systems, but that's a conversation from there.
The problem is disinformation is free. Fox News is free. Yeah. You can get, so it is very frustrating that I tried to look at, I think something about the mayoral results in New York the other day, and I couldn't fucking access it.
But when you say you don't trust the audience, I mean, is part of that you look at society and say like, when society starts getting more on board with this type of idea, then okay, cool. Now I might give the audience more good faith in the beginning.
Or maybe once I'm working, maybe if I make it to that level where I've got specials and the audience is my audience, I don't have to do that as much.
Yeah, but natural. That's the goal.
While I'm in this part of my career where it's all kind of mixed rooms. It definitely just is room to room.
Well, I feel like you're going to be in that place one of these days. You're going to have the specials. You're going to have your people. You're you're really fun. You're really funny, and you're also you're unique. You're not like the standard person, someone who goes on stages, which is my way of saying like, yeah, you're not. You have all these identity markers that are just like really yours and your own. Your life is your own.
Thanks. Or I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Well,
That's
don't do
kind of what
that.
I've learned about, but that's what pandemic has done to me, by the way, in terms of like how I feel like I'm permanently traumatized. It's like, yeah, I thank you. That's very sweet. The idea of a 5-year plan
what I was trying to say
right
was like,
now-
you're very marketable. That was what I was trying to get
I'll
at.
take that. Someone
Very
out
funny and
there
very
give me a
marketable.
special.
Did you want to throw your plugs out real quick?
Oh yeah, I'm James Tison on everything. Tison, TikTok, Insta, Twitter.
All right. Before you go pee, why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody. I hope that my opinions didn't alienate everybody.
Okay, now go empty your bladder.
Thank you, thank
Okay,
you.
bye. Folks, Man-Whore-Con is upon us. It's coming up soon, August 12th through 15th in upstate New York. Fan whores from across the country. Sorry, Canada, your border situation's still funky. But fan whores from across the country, we're coming together and we're going to have a long ass weekend hanging out and partying with each other. It's going to be awesome. And we still have one room open. It is a room with 2 queen size beds. So you need 2 parties to reserve it. I want to give it to you. Shoot me an email at manwhorepod@gmail.com if you'd like to reserve it or if you have any questions. Speaking of Man-Whore-Con, we just opened up a Man-Whore-Con channel in the Champagne Room on Discord. Yep. If you've ever been to a Man-Whore-Con, if you're going to Man-Whore-Con, if you're just curious and you want to observe the conversations about Man-Whore-Con, that is available there, as well as a channel for episode discussions. What'd you think about James Tison? What'd you think of our conversation? How can you relate to communication styles with your partner locked down during COVID? Maybe come on by and share with us like some major events and difficulties y'all had to work through and how you did that. You can do that in the Champagne Room, as well as share cute pictures of your puppies in the Pets channel. Introduce yourself today at manwhorepod.com/Discord. Want to shout us out more publicly? Feel so ecstatic about this week's episode? Shout both me and James out publicly and tag us on the social media. I got a link and handles for both me and James in the show notes of this episode. I don't make this request terribly often, but if you're an Apple Podcast user or if you have an iPhone, because if you have an iPhone, you have the Apple Podcast app. Even if you don't use the Apple Podcast app, it would mean so much to me if you'd like briefly go open that Apple Podcast app, search for the Man-Whore Podcast, leave it 5 stars. This is not just for vanity. It actually helps with the search engine juice. Even more so, by the way, if you take, the 20, 30 seconds to leave me a kind little review down there for other people to read. Last but certainly not least, no, not the OnlyFans. There's a link for that in the show notes. But the Pepsi Challenge is looking more and more like a reality, to the point that I believe we are going to be recording the Pepsi Challenge on July 17th here in Brooklyn, New York, and we're still seeking a couple more independent variable suckers. Yes. If you are a lady identifying person, if you are a fairly femme human being, and you'd like to suck a dick for a couple minutes before talking about it on mic, as part of like a bonding experience with some other gals crowded around trying to confuse a blindfolded boy, hit me up. I'll have some screener questions. I'll answer your questions. Should be fun. And yes, you can be anonymous. Hit me up, everybody. Read articles on things. Put in the work. And stay slutty. It's the vibrator that has no equal. And now, Motor Bunny offers their thrusting sex machine, the Motor Bunny Buck. Enjoy a fan whore discount at manwhorepod.com/motorbunny or use promo code manwhore at checkout.